Okay, I hope you guys can hear this all right. So today's video, I have to talk about, because of what I do on this channel, we have to address what's going on with Kate Middleton, Meghan Markle, that whole thing. Obviously my channel recently has been really dedicated to Gaza, and that's going to be the main focus. So before we even get into anything here, in my description box there's links to medical aid to Palestinians, the Oxfam Gaza appeal. What was that noise? There's people in Gaza or Palestinians that you can follow. Just please, like, I'm not saying everyone's life has to stop, and I know we still have to find joy in things, but if you've got a platform, even if it's really small, you know, please make sure that you're keeping these things in the news cycle, because it's going to get pushed out of the news cycle and things are getting worse and worse in Gaza. It's just absolutely appalling, and we have to do what we can. So, you know, that's all in the description box, and I'll be making some more videos on that soon. Thank you as well for your well wishes about my last video. So I'm suffering with a thing called parosmia. I had a blood test today to see if it's long COVID. You're lucky today that I'm not wearing I've bought myself like a swimmer's like a nose clip kind of thing. So, but yeah. I'm feeling okay today, so you know. So let's talk about the situation. So originally the thing that made me want to talk about this is, so I'm watching Celebrity Big Brother at the moment, and for me, I enjoy these shows because I like looking at psychology and dynamics, and I kind of like the idea of putting people of different groups, ages, genders, like different walks of life in the same house, not giving them TV or internet, and just watching them make bonds. And I think it can be a really good thing in terms of community, because I believe that, you know, we can I think that can be a really good thing, you know. We can make society better. We have more that unites us, and we all have different strengths and weaknesses, and if we come together we make something better. It's also interesting to see it is a social experiment. I think the only thing I don't like about Big Brother as a concept is the bit when people leave the house and it gets really weird and medieval, because you've got people booing and heckling, and even when I really can't stand the people involved, something inside me just, I don't like it. It makes me feel a bit horrible. But yeah, no, I really enjoy it as a social experiment. And last night I was watching it. It's one of the only things I'm watching at the moment because I've been really ill. And yet, even in a show like Celebrity Big Brother, our media has been so permeated with anti-Meghan pieces. So obviously on the channel, if you follow my channel, you know we've been going through this. So Kate Middleton has been branded for a really long time as kind of a solo act. And, you know, there are things that you can't really say because it's not our business to say, but, you know, I think you know what I'm getting at. I think it's been clear for a long time that they're trying to push Kate on her own, right? They've really, I mean, if you ask the people in terms of propaganda with the papers, who the public prefer, William or Kate? Well, Kate's team have been working overtime to present her as wife, mother, you know, this perfect princess character. And all she really has to do, and this is not me commenting on her as a person, I don't know her as a person, I can only comment on the propaganda around her, what the teams put out and what the firm put out. She is made out to be this very pure, dignified, classy, calm, you know, everyone sort of, she only really thrives in opposition to something, if that makes sense. So in order to build her up, it's like a weird situation, because I mean, I've this is going to be all over the place, but you know, in the past when I've spoken about domestic violence dynamics, etc., and I'm not saying that's what's happening right now, but in a situation where that did happen, so for example, say hypothetically the Prince of Wales, the heir to the throne, was domestically abusing the Princess of Wales, right? I'm not saying that's happening, I'm just saying think about that as a system. Now, the firm itself, it's not about talent, it's literally about birthright, and they are invested as a business in making sure that line of succession keeps going. So just logically thinking from their perspective, they are going to protect the men in the line of succession, right? And the blood royals. And we've seen that time and time again, like with what's happened with Diana, Sarah Ferguson. With Meghan, it's been even worse, to the extent that they've even turned on Harry for being loyal to her. But their primary aim is to protect the institution and protect the heir, right, at all costs. So in a situation where, this is why I find it so dodgy, like when the magazines are trying to present William and Kate as this super couple, right, even though we don't know them, that is really dangerous for any of us to do, especially when we don't know anything about a couple. You know, it's never based on anything they actually do or anything they say about each other. It's this idealized image that people have. And I've always thought, well, what would happen if things weren't like that behind the scenes? And, like, let's just say in a hypothetical situation, you know, something bad was going on and the Princess of Wales needed to get out of that. She's kind of already trapped in a sense, because of all that propaganda that's been put out there, you know, and her worth is tied to the Prince of Wales. So if she is liked by the press, and I say this because it's not real like, they don't know her and they don't care about her, it's a role. She's meant to stand for, let's be honest, like upper class white women, right? And it's also, she's being used as a vessel for racism, because people put her up against Meghan Markle and it's like, oh, the lovely Kate compared to the awful Meghan, which I'll get into in a minute. That's made me really angry, talking in terms of Celebrity Big Brother. But if your whole thing is wife, mother, silent, endures, right, and that's the thing that they're building you up as, and that is really dangerous, especially if you're not born in. Because what happens if you stop being obedient, right? What happens if you stop being the wife? What does that mean for you? And I've thought this with Diana. I know that I might be wrong about this, but I think because of the line of succession, I don't think Diana had full say over her own children, you know? And again, like, you know, this is not, you know, my views on this anyway, but the idea of the monarchy in itself is ridiculous, and it is damaging not just to us as a country, and the system of it is just corrupt, but also it's not fair on the people in it, especially the ones born in. It's not right that you become a public figure just because you're born, right, and you're born into that role. And I think, again, like, I'm not saying that I don't know any of these people personally, but I think that would really mess you up. And I think if, you know, say, we know that William's, you know, had some angry outbursts in the past, let's just say, but I think, like, realistically speaking, if we're being honest, like, wouldn't someone born in that role have a lot of anger and resentments about the kind of gilded cage element of it? You're being raised as literally, I don't know, I'll put it like this. I am, like, my special interest is, like, the Tudors and Anne Boleyn specifically. But if you look at, like, Henry VIII, for example, people say that, you know, oh, he's like this mad, evil tyrant king, and he did awful, evil things. But if you're literally raised, well, technically his brother was meant to be king instead of him, but you're still raised thinking that you are this superior person, and the people around you are so invested in that and your role that, you know, people won't tell you no or anything. If you genuinely, like, how do you create a healthy human being who you're also teaching, and the system is teaching, is automatically superior to everyone else due to birthright, but at the same time doesn't have a choice and is kind of like born into the system, and if they want to get out of the system, it's going to cause a huge drama. Like, I imagine that would be, on a psychological level, that would create a really interesting and damaged individual, right? That mess of stuff going on, anger and resentment and entitlement, but also pain. So all this stuff with Kate Middleton, like Kate being missing, for example, and it is odd. It's not that we should know anyone's private business, but these people are public figures, right? In terms of, we pay for them. They're meant to be ambassadors to us. And this is why, again, it's a total scam, the monarchy, because it doesn't make sense. We shouldn't be entitled to people's private business. But equally, like, you shouldn't be, that shouldn't exist as a role. There does need to be some sort of transparency, and that's where it comes into conflict, and it won't work, because if you run it as a business, but is it a family or is it a business? Is it a tool, like a political tool, which it is? I mean, people always say that, sorry, this is all over the place, but people always say, oh, the royals, it's unbiased, it's not political. And I can't stand when people say that, because it's like the most ridiculous thing. Of course it's political. It's absolutely political. The royals are completely political. Like, we're just taught that's the status quo. And they think, oh, it's outside of politics. No, it isn't outside of politics. No, it isn't. That doesn't make sense. No, it is not outside of politics. That is political in itself. That is the choice of hereditary monarchy rather than elected leaders. That's a political leaning, right? Now, I've seen lots of, you know, theories about where Kate is, etc. And in some ways it's not our business, but what I will say is this: it's not irrational for people to be genuinely concerned about where she is, because in this institution, in the hypothetical situation that something had happened to her or something had been done to her, what protection will she have? Because what we already have is we have a history of that firm. If you marry into it, you're only useful insofar as you prop up the blood royal. And we saw that with Diana, right? So when she was obedient, they weren't great to her, but she had a little bit of protection. But as soon as she stepped away from that, we saw the precursor to what we saw with Meghan and Harry, which is they just left her, right? They made her out to be unstable. They had power over her children. Like, it was like, how would you even talk about what went on in that marriage? Because it's become political, because people are like, oh no, you can't say that because you're destroying the monarchy itself. Well, where does that leave a potential victim? Like, what? I don't know how that's supposed to... That's not a safe environment. Now, what we know with Meghan and Harry is that if you divert at all, if you have any individuality, if you even make the principals jealous, you're in danger. And it's not like... It's people act like, oh, you know, it's not like they tried to have them killed or something. No, but it's a form of abuse, because what they do is they take away, they ice you out, they make you the scapegoat. They will use you as the person to take all the negative press. They will put you through hell. They strip your security, for example. And that in itself is a form of abuse. And this is why abused people and basically all people, all marginalised people, just all of us together, should be working together against injustice to try and make things fairer. And we should stand with people who are vulnerable, because it could be any of us, right? You know that saying, you know, first they came for the such and such, you know, and then someone goes along with it because you're not part of that group situation. This was always going to happen, and this is why it's so foolish, right? It's so foolish of... If they did what they did to Meghan, right? Obviously, a lot of it was because of racism, but it was also because she was outspoken, right? Meghan was her own person, and she wouldn't be bullied. And they have smeared her and made a great example of her. And I've thought this for a while, that the media doing that to Harry and Meghan, it's the most foolish thing imaginable. The most, like, I can't imagine something more foolish than potentially William and Kate's people going along with that and throwing them Harry and Meghan, because they're going to get eaten by it next, because that press needs to devour somebody, right? So you make Meghan into that awful, disobedient, terrible woman, right? And all the racist undertones. And in order to, like, raise Kate, they made her the English Rose. And what does that actually mean? If you ask somebody genuinely, what is Kate's personality? We do not know that. We know they market her as meek and mild, and, you know, she's a blank canvas. She is an English Rose, right? But what else? That's not me saying she doesn't have... Of course she does. She will have her own personality and her rich inner life, and, you know, but they don't show us that for a reason. Because right now she's obedient. And they had to show that up against Meghan. And it's like they didn't realise. It seemed like Kate and William did not realise that they were setting themselves up. Because if you don't stand with other people and show solidarity when they go through that, you're next. You're absolutely next. And again, I've said this before in other videos, but what they've done to Meghan and Harry is also a threat to the children from the firm and from the press. You know, as in the William and Kate's children. Because it's, look what we'll do if you step out of line. Not even step out of line. If you step out of your role in any way, we will make you into hate figures, and it won't stop. You can flee to another country and we will still do this. We will make everyone hate you. And we will make this so prevalent that you cannot escape from it. It will be years. You'll have moved somewhere else and you will still be hate figures, and we will make that happen. That is a threat. This is why... I'm sorry, it's so wrong, apart from how wrong it is to go along with racism and allow that to happen to somebody. It's irresponsible to your own children who are growing up in that system. Because it's them that's the threat, right? They're the ones being threatened with that. Because if you grow up seeing that, it's going to make it very hard, isn't it? If you're one of those kids and you're thinking, I'm not sure about this. It's going to make it very hard, because you're thinking, well, look what they did to Uncle Harry and Auntie Meghan. I don't want that situation. I don't want everyone to hate me, because What poor child wants that? What poor child wants to think that they can go through something like that? To know the system is capable, and they were capable of doing it to Diana, right? They tried to make her out as unstable. Now I'm hearing all sorts of people are speculating about Kate and where she's at, and it's less, to be honest, I'm less interested in what the actual situation is. I hope she's okay in terms of she was completely complicit in what happened with Meghan, right? It's inexcusable. But I still, you know, worry that women in that system are not safe. So I hope she's all right. At a very base level, like, I really, really hope she's okay. But the system is not going to protect her, and it is not a safe system for people who marry in. It was foolish, so foolish, to turn on Meghan, right? So foolish. Because people don't imagine it's going to turn on them. They think, oh, I'm all right. If I throw someone else under the bus, then I'll be like the golden child for a while. That's not how it works. Like, the media need to get at somebody, and the firm is going to go to war. Because if you make Meghan, who is, I have never seen that woman lose her temper. She is articulate, intelligent, you know, she's thoughtful, she is, you know, she just comes across, like, I don't understand what people see when they look at her and they see this monstrous, evil person. Like, there is nothing there of that. She's just, what has this poor woman done in a negative way? But if you make her into this dangerous, unstable person, right? She's this wicked person, this wicked woman. You know, oh, it's everything, it's all her fault, she's taken the white Prince Harry away. I'm sorry, even as a white woman in that system, you are still in danger from that. Because when, at the end of the day, the firm is going to try and support its immediate line of succession. Now, what happens if you stop being obedient, right? If the press starts seeing you as difficult? Because Kate's power has been marketing her as meek, mild, wife and mother, I don't make trouble, you know, I endure. So what if one day she ever wants to come forward for whatever reason? I'm not saying this is the case, but if there was ever a situation where she wanted to come forward, she wanted to do an interview, she wanted to do what Diana did, and she wanted to say, actually, I was mistreated. How's the system going to treat her? Right? Because she is loved based on, I endure, right? I don't complain, because that's what they love in the monarchy. I always think it's dodgy when an institution's big thing is don't complain. It's like, no, that feels like a cover-up of something. Right, when in this country, in Britain, we say keep calm and carry on. And to the extent that, like, you know, it's good in the sense that if you go through hardship, you know, keep a positive attitude, keep trying, that's great. But when it's used in terms of, for example, when Harry's talking about mental health issues and they call it whining, or they mock Meghan, who was suicidal, right? That turns it into a sort of bullying and threat, which is don't talk about your mistreatment. And that not only impacts all of us in society, feeling like, you know, we're weak, and especially, you know, when Harry talks about his issues, it's been shocking how many people have mocked him as a man for that, as if men aren't supposed to have feelings or experience trauma or anything. But the idea is that if you complain, if you talk about that, you're whining. Right? Remember when Harry spoke about how William allegedly assaulted him in his home, and the conversation wasn't, well, you know, William was out of line, he shouldn't have done that. It was about how Harry was weak and whining because he spoke about it. And that was a warning shot from the press. I'm telling you, that was warning anybody else in the system. That even, because if they can do that to Harry, and Harry's a blood royal, but he's the spare, he's still higher up to them than someone like Kate, because Kate's married in. I'm not being funny, we haven't moved on that far since the Tudor times. They can replace Kate. They can replace her. William could marry someone else if he wanted. And what happens if she ever starts talking? Then does she become the whiner? Right? Oh no, she's talking about it too much. I thought you were supposed to, you know, endure. And it just makes no sense. It's a dangerous position to be in. And in some ways, like, I pity anyone in that position. But what they did to Meghan and Harry was always going to be used on other people. And it was going to be used on William and Kate's own children. So that makes me angry, right? That's what it was laying the groundwork for. You know, it's interesting, in other countries there are some articles and things about, you know, what would happen, for example, if William was convicted of a crime or something. I'm not saying, you know, and he has done anything, but I'm just saying it makes you think about, and I've said this for a while, as you know, in the situation where there was abuse in that marriage, I'm not saying there is, but in a situation where there was, in a situation like that, that would be exceptionally difficult with the way that's being sold. That would be very hard to get out of or talk about. And what does that mean if your children are property of the state, right? Because they're in the line of succession. And what does that mean if you're loved based on old-fashioned gender roles, which is the wife, the mother, quiet, endures? Like, what happens if you become difficult? What happens if you become the difficult woman? Because they made Meghan into the difficult woman, and she is gracious, she is articulate, right? I've never seen her get angry, and if I was in her position, I would get really angry, but I've never seen that. Yet they made her difficult. And that was a foolish thing for Kate to go along with. Because if you make that difficult, right, what Meghan has done, if that's difficult, and I truly think as well, part of the anger about the Oprah interview, they didn't do anything wrong with the Oprah interview. It has to be seen as this great insult because they have to make sure that nobody else in the firm or close to the firm ever speaks about anything. They have to show that even if it's the spare Harry, they will destroy anyone who speaks about it. That's a threat. And maybe certain people involved in that didn't think they'd ever have to be in that position themselves. But that's why we have to show solidarity to each other. Now, as I was getting onto with Celebrity Big Brother, so it made me angry. So Louis Walsh and Sharon Osbourne and someone called Fern Britton are in there at the moment. And the subject of Meghan has come up a few times. And it really annoyed me, right? So they were sort of talking about Meghan Markle, and these people talk about her in a way that, I mean, I know we talk about this a lot, but people think that racism is just using the N-word, right? Or being really blatant. But it's not just that. So, for example, they're talking about, they've met Kate one time or something, and she was the perfect princess. She was so beautiful. She was so wonderful. They talk about her like she was this wonderful English rose. They met her one time. They didn't even know her properly. They've never met Meghan, but they talked about her as being difficult, mysterious was one of the words that came up, that she was mysterious. Then they managed to say, oh, I hope Harry and the children are happy. I just hope they're okay. As if she's in some way dangerous to them, which is absurd. They can't even wish her happiness, right? No, it's I hope Harry and the children are happy. And then it's, oh, I do wish Harry would come home. I wish Harry would come home. The idea is that these older, bitter white people sit there talking absolute nonsense about Meghan Markle based on tabloid lies, and it's not even, they don't even have that excuse, right? Because any right-thinking person knows that it's nonsense, right? It's just another avenue for racism. There is nothing Meghan could do that would be right. I mean, they were angry about, they made up a fictitious thing in their minds. They were like, oh, isn't Kate a wonderful Princess of Wales, and that lovely ring she wears, and imagine if Meghan got the ring. And it was like, but seriously, what do you mean imagine if Meghan got the ring? What would be different? She'd be wearing it. Like, actually, like, it's deranged. Like, what are you talking about? She would just be wearing the ring. What would change in the world? Oh, imagine if Meghan had worn that ring. Oh, it would be awful. Oh, I just hope Harry's all right. Oh, I just hope the children are all right. And it's all a lie, right? Because how's Harry going to be all right when his wife is being racially abused and bullied on this scale? And his children have had their security taken away. Like, he doesn't even know that they're safe in this country. And yet they're talking about, oh, I hope he comes home. And they're so blatant now, right? They want him to come home without her. They want him to come home without Meghan and without the kids. They don't care so much about the kids. Maybe bring the kids back, in which case they mean take the kids away from Meghan. But they're so openly, like, they bond over it. Like, racists bond over talking rubbish about Meghan Markle. And it's never about anything she's actually done. There's nothing wrong with disliking a person for whatever reason, but they have this hatred. It's a fun ritual. It's like they identify each other. It's like they know they're safe people to talk to. It didn't go over my head that these people spoke about Meghan together. In a house of young people, it was this three together, right? And it was almost a little bit private. Because they know that wouldn't fly in front of the group, especially not in front of young people. It really wouldn't. It's like they seek each other out. It's almost like you can figure out who's on your wavelength on that regard, or who has the same views. Test the water, bring up Meghan Markle, and someone says something, oh, she's awful, isn't she? Oh, she's terrible. And they know that they're safe They know they can, yeah, I'm sorry, it's racism, right? They can bond over that. They act like Meghan has stolen something, that Meghan has stolen Harry. They act like Meghan is this awful person compared to Kate Middleton. And no one ever turns around and just says to them, like, what are you basing that on? Based on what? Like, what is... There is no reason to judge. Why are you judging them so differently? Why is Meghan seen as dangerous and classless and showy and mysterious? I'm sorry, mysterious. Kate Middleton's been missing for months, and then there was the dodgy Photoshop situation. Don't know what on earth's going on there. But Meghan's mysterious. What does that even mean? They're just coming up with new words for racism at this point. This woman is minding her own business. She is living her life elsewhere, right? She was chased out. People were hateful towards her, so they went. But it won't stop, because it's not about Harry and Meghan. It's about racism. It's about upholding racism. And again, like, this is where we're going to get into the state of Britain right now and the racism we have here, because they are using Meghan and that whole example as a sort of... Like, obviously on the news, we have awful things about asylum seekers. We've got a lot of Islamophobia. We've got a lot of anti-black racism. We've got a lot of that happening right now. And they have been like a sleeper agent kind of thing, like over time on the women's magazines, etc., on like Loose Women, all that kind of stuff. They've been doing the same narrative with Meghan, which is foreigner comes in, doesn't do what we want, steals something from us, the dangerous, awful foreigner pollutes what we have and takes what we have, right? And our old values, our wonderful white princess, you know, like Kate, we get hurt by this awful outsider, this awful trashy, like, that's what the story is. And that's why it's relevant to to issues in Britain of race, because that's just the entertainment version of the same racism in this country. They are outraged that she got the white prince and they want to see her fall and fail because of it, right? It can't be that she came in and was accomplished, right, and lives happily. It's got to be that she gets her comeuppance. Because she was too bold, too arrogant. She was too... I mean, she was just too clever, right? She was too gracious. She was too stylish. And now she's showing other people up. She can't win. It's the idea is the outsider coming in, the brown outsider will come in and corrupt institutions, right? And it's unsafe. They'll steal institutions. They'll change it. They'll try to change it and it won't be ours anymore. And then they'll go. And that's the heart of it. That's why they're running with this whole Meghan thing. So to see these old... I mean, for example, Fern Bryn. I know Sharon Osbourne's nasty. Louis Walsh is nasty. I mean, you should see the whole situation with how he's treated Girls Aloud. Jedward, nasty man. But with Fern Britton, she presents herself... A lot of these people present themselves as soft-speaking and kind, you know, and they're sort of like, you know, be kind and nice and that kind of thing. And then it comes to Meghan Markle, a woman who was suicidal, right, who lost the child she was carrying. She was driven by this rancid, evil hate campaign which wouldn't stop no matter what she did. There was nothing she could do. Like, she was right. They hate her for breathing. They hated her for breathing. And even now she's gone elsewhere. They won't stop. They won't stop because they're trying to make a show of her, right? They have to humiliate this woman of colour. She got above her station in their eyes. Even these soft-spoken white women, you know, they won't say like anything outwardly racist. They'll say, I hope Harry's all right. Oh, you know, that Meghan's a bit... Oh, I just think she's a bit dangerous. I just don't trust her for some reason. I can't explain why. There's just some reason I just don't trust her. Meanwhile, it's completely hypocritical, because what do you know about Kate Middleton? I mean, I don't know anything about Kate, and I'm not going to speak badly of somebody I don't know. But what I would say is, what? So you hate Meghan for being outspoken, but you also hate her for being mysterious. It doesn't make sense. It's any excuse. Because it makes them feel better and bigger to put down that woman of colour, because it's jealousy and it's spite. It's like, she needs to go back in her place. I just think she should go back in her place because that would make me feel better. That's the whole vibe. And it's making me really sick. It makes me so angry. And now I'm seeing people, like the same people who hounded Meghan through a time when she was suicidal, and people denied she was suicidal. She was so... And it's mad that people would even deny that, because I can't imagine going through what she did. Even like that hate campaign every day, knowing that's going on, would destroy me as a person. And now they're saying, oh, Kate needs her privacy. And it's like, okay, to a certain degree, of course she should. But I'm sorry, no, people are gonna be concerned because of what that firm has done to Diana, to Sarah Ferguson for a while, obviously to Meghan and to Harry. Like, people are gonna be concerned and want to know what the hell's going on with Kate. Because again, these abusive systems, they don't just stop being abusive. But also, like, these people saying, you know, oh, what, you know, leave her alone. Like, what about mental health issues and stuff? It's like, where were you when that was Meghan? But Meghan's not human to you, is she? They reveal it. They don't see her as a human being. It's not just disliking someone. There is nothing wrong with disliking anyone, right? You might have a reason why you dislike a person. They don't just dislike her, they dehumanize her. They don't see her as a human being anymore. They don't see that her pain is real, right? They don't think that she's soft enough to be upset by things. They don't worry about that. When it's Kate, they worry, oh, this pure white woman, you know, oh, you know, she's upset and she's sad. And of course, we should always feel bad when someone feels upset. But when it came to Meghan, they didn't care. They actually enjoyed it because she was just a thing to them. And that's racism. She wasn't a person. She was a thing, a plaything. Something for them to bond over in a racist way, right? And what on earth has she done to deserve that? It's outrageous. Anyway, thank you for watching this video. It's good to get that off my chest. I've been feeling weirdly guilty on this channel because I want to... The main situation right now we need to be focusing on is Gaza, right? So many innocent people. I can't believe that we're still at this point where innocent people are being killed. There's no excuse for innocent people to be starved and shot and slaughtered, and you know, it's just absolutely horrific. And I can't believe that our governments can't do the bare minimum, which is support a ceasefire, because we don't want people dying. Like, how is that radical to not want people to die? You know, to just want people to be safe and to have food to eat and to not be bombed. So if you can donate to medical aid for Palestinians, you know, keep boosting Palestinian voices, keep speaking up for that ceasefire, don't let it fall out of the news cycle. You know, another function of this royal stuff is that sometimes when stuff's happening in the government, in the news, it's used as a smokescreen. So it's like a weird... That's why I sometimes struggle with, like, do I discuss this stuff? Do I not? I think it's relevant because to me it's connected. It's all used to push the same messages. But yeah, please do what you can, and please have solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Gaza, innocent people who are going through a really awful time. It's dreadful. But yeah, thank you so much for watching. Show Palestine your support if you can, and I love you, and I'll see you really soon. Thank you for your prayers about, you know, my long COVID stuff, and hopefully I'll start to feel better soon. Love you loads, and I'll see you really soon. Bye.